Sometimes I forget who I used to be. Before the quiet mornings, the tidy house, the predictable meals, before the sermons and the school runs, and the unspoken rules that tied my spine so straight I forgot how to bend. I am 44. I am the wife of a pastor. I am the mother of two, a curious, wide-eyed little girl of 8 and a son of 21, in his second year of medical school, who sometimes feels more like my anchor than my child. And I am tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep cures, but the kind that comes from pretending for too long. Pretending to be content, to be fulfilled, to be the good wife, the supportive mother, the quiet shadow behind the man who carries the word. But that night, something changed. It had been an ordinary day. I had spent the evening bathing my daughter, brushing her damp hair while she hummed a hymn under her breath. My husband was already in bed, as usual, lights out at 10, prayers whispered into his pillow. I had just stepped out of the bath, wrapped in a cotton robe, my hair still dripping down my back when I heard my phone buzz softly on the windowsill. It was a message from my son. "You up for a late-night escape? Mulled wine and stories? Just us." I stared at the screen. It was 11:04 p.m. I glanced toward the bedroom. Silence. My daughter had already drifted to sleep, clutching her stuffed elephant. My hands trembled slightly as I typed back. "Where?" "There's a small place by the park. Candlelight, quiet music. I'll drive." For a moment, I hesitated. The weight of expectation sat on my chest like a brick. What would Greg think? What if someone saw me, his wife, out at that hour, hair down, eyes lit with something dangerously close to joy? But something inside me moved. A tiny shift, like the first crack of ice under spring sunlight. I dressed quickly, choosing something I hadn't worn in years, a soft navy blouse that fell just off the shoulder and made me feel like a woman, not just a role. I tucked my hair into a low braid, dabbed the faintest touch of perfume behind my ears, and tiptoed down the stairs with the grace of someone committing a gentle sin. He was waiting for me outside. When I opened the door and stepped into the cool night air, I saw him leaning against the passenger side of the car, a quiet smile lighting his face. His eyes found mine, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. He looked so much like the boy I once held, and yet so much like the man I might have once dreamed about when I was still young enough to believe in such things. "Hey, Mom," he said, pushing open the door for me. "You look really nice." I smiled, trying to keep my hands from fidgeting. "Thank you. This feels, I don't know, strange." "Strange can be good," he said. The drive was short, the kind that stretches not in distance but in feeling. We spoke of nothing at first: school, my daughter's new obsession with piano, the weather. But underneath it all was an unspoken electricity, a kind of warmth I hadn't felt in years. The cafe was tucked away behind a row of ivy-covered fences, dimly lit and nearly empty. We sat in the corner booth, red wine swirling in our glasses, and something in the air began to shift. We laughed more freely than I expected. He teased me about old memories, the way I used to sing along to cheesy radio hits in the kitchen, the way I danced with him barefoot after baking cookies when he was 10. "Sometimes I forget you used to be fun," he said with a smile, but there was no malice in his voice. Only softness. I mean, I still see it, just in little flashes. That made me blink. I looked at him, really looked at him. The way his jaw had sharpened, the way his voice dipped when he leaned in to speak, the quiet confidence in his gaze. And suddenly, I wasn't thinking like a mother. I wasn't even thinking like a wife. I was thinking like a woman who hadn't been truly seen in years. I felt the warmth of the wine in my chest, but even more than that, I felt the fire of attention, of being wanted, maybe not in a romantic way, but in a way that reminded me I was still alive. The candle between us flickered. I shifted in my seat. He leaned back, watching me quietly, then said something that sent a chill through me. "You know, I think you're the only person I can really talk to. Like, really talk." I opened my mouth, but no words came, because I felt it too. Something deep and soft and forbidden beginning to rise, like steam from the bath I had just left. A secret not yet spoken, but already taking shape in the air between us. And I didn't know where this would lead. But I knew, in that moment, I didn't want the night to end. The night outside felt different after we left the cafe. Colder, quieter. But I wasn't ready to go home. And neither was he. "Come with me," he said, almost shyly, glancing over his shoulder as we reached the car. "I want to show you something." I hesitated for half a second. But the way he said it, soft, intimate, like he was sharing a secret with me and only me, drew me in. I nodded. He smiled, and the corner of his mouth twitched the way it used to when he was a child about to show me a drawing he was proud of. We drove for 20 minutes, out of town, through winding streets lined with tall trees that arched overhead like a quiet cathedral. There were no street lamps here, just the moonlight trailing us, silver and solemn. The tires crackled over gravel as we pulled off the road and into a hidden alcove I'd never noticed before. "This way," he said, taking a flashlight from the car. The trail was narrow, the woods hushed but alive with the whisper of wind through the trees. I followed him, my shoes catching on roots and stones, until the path opened suddenly into a small clearing. And then I saw it. A lake, still as glass, wrapped in a gentle mist, the moon casting a perfect reflection across its mirrored surface. A bench stood beneath a crooked birch tree, half swallowed by ivy and thyme. It felt like we had stepped out of the world and into a dream. "I found this place last summer," he said, his voice low. "Came here a lot during finals. Just to breathe." I was speechless. Something about the place made me feel like I wasn't supposed to speak. Only feel. He took off his coat and draped it over the bench before motioning for me to sit. We sat side by side, the silence between us soft, but not empty. He turned slightly, watching me. "Are you happy, Mom?" he asked. It wasn't a casual question. It landed heavy in my chest. I opened my mouth, but the truth caught in my throat. "I don't know anymore." He nodded, not pressing. "Then, do you like living with Dad?" I flinched slightly at the directness, but there was no judgment in his voice. Only curiosity. Concern. "I feel like I'm more of an idea than a person sometimes," I whispered. The pastor's wife. The example. The smile. The support. But no one really asks what I want. Not even him. He looked away, jaw tight. He should ask. I hadn't realized how badly I needed someone to say that. He turned back to me. "You're allowed to want things too, you know. You don't have to disappear just because you're married." My breath caught. It was too much. The lake, the moon, the feeling in my chest, and him, this son of mine who somehow spoke the words I didn't even know I'd buried. Then, slowly, gently, he reached out and wrapped his arms around me. Not a casual hug. Not a quick, polite gesture. It was long, solid, safe. I melted into it. And yet, I also felt it. That undercurrent. Not wrong. Not inappropriate. But charged. His hand moved slowly, almost hesitantly, up and down my back. I didn't stop him. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to be touched in a way that wasn't routine or mechanical. Maybe because, for once, I wanted to feel known. And then, just as I closed my eyes, my phone rang. The sound sliced through the moment like a blade. I froze. He tensed. We both looked at the screen. Greg. My husband. The man asleep in our bed. The man who never called at this hour. The man who wouldn't understand where I was, or why. I stared at the phone, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. My son didn't say a word. He just looked at me, waiting. I didn't move. The phone rang again. The phone kept ringing. My husband's name glowed on the screen, pulsing in my hand like a silent alarm. I stared at it, unsure of what to feel. Guilt? Fear? Or something far more dangerous, resentment? I answered on the fourth ring. "Hello." My voice sounded different. Smaller. "Where are you?" His voice was groggy. He hadn't even noticed I'd left the house. "I just stepped out for a bit," I replied, my gaze still fixed on the lake, the silver water, and the shape of my son beside me. He had turned away slightly, giving me space, his shoulders tense but still near. There was a long pause. "You took the car?" he asked. No concern. Just routine questions. I did. I needed some air. Another pause. Then, "All right. Just don't be long. You know the neighbors talk." Click. The line went dead. I let the phone fall into my lap, its glow fading, the silence rushing back like a wave. I didn't move for a while. Just sat there, the weight of the call pressing against my chest. He hadn't asked if I was safe, or warm, or why I'd left the house at midnight. Only what the neighbors might say. I let out a slow breath, one that felt like it had been trapped in my lungs for years. When I finally turned to look at my son, he was watching me, not with judgment, but with something quieter, something deeper. "You okay?" he asked, his voice so soft it barely reached over the stillness. I nodded, then shook my head. "I don't know," I admitted. We sat like that for a long moment, the woods wrapped around us like a secret. The air had grown colder, but I didn't shiver. "I'm sorry if he started, then stopped. His hands rested on his knees, knuckles pale from how tightly he held them. I didn't mean to make things weird. I looked at him, really looked, at the man he'd become, at the boy who used to crawl into my lap after nightmares, now taller than me, carrying burdens I couldn't see. "You didn't," I said. "You made me feel real, like I existed again." That confession seemed to unsettle him. His eyes flicked away. "Why do you stay?" he asked after a moment. "With him. If it hurts you." "Because I'm supposed to. Because it's what's expected. Because leaving would tear everything apart. Because I forgot I could want something more." I didn't say any of that out loud. I didn't have to. I think he knew. Instead, I whispered, "Because I'm afraid of who I'd be if I stopped pretending." He nodded, slowly. And then he did something simple, something small and enormous all at once. He reached out and took my hand. Not to pull, not to possess, just to hold. His fingers were warm, firm, and they trembled slightly like mine. That touch didn't feel wrong. It felt like recognition. Two souls pressed together by years of silence and obligation, finally remembering what it meant to be known. A breeze moved through the trees, sending a ripple across the water. "I wish things were different for you," he said. I closed my eyes. "I think I'm starting to wish the same." The words hung between us. Not a promise. Not a plan. Just a moment. A fragile, trembling moment that neither of us dared to break. The night air had cooled, wrapping the lake in a soft haze that glittered faintly under the moon. We stood up at the same time, neither of us ready to leave, but both knowing we should. "Come on," he said quietly. "Let's get you home before it gets colder." The path back toward the car was darker now, the flashlight beam catching on patches of wet leaves. I followed close behind him, my shoes slipping on the soft ground. Somewhere between the curve of the trail and the shadowed roots, my foot gave out. Pain shot through my ankle before I even understood what had happened. "Mom." His voice was sharper than I'd heard in years. He caught me before I could fall, his arms firm around my shoulders. I tried to laugh it off, but the twist in my leg made the sound catch in my throat. "It's fine," I insisted. "Just give me a second." He crouched beside me, frowning. "You can't walk on that." "I can," I said, though we both knew I couldn't. Without another word, he slid one arm beneath my knees and the other around my back. Before I could protest, he lifted me easily. My breath caught, not from the pain, but from the unexpected gentleness of the act. His warmth, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against my shoulder, the sense of being held instead of having to hold everything together, it undid something inside me. I hadn't felt small or protected in a very long time. "You don't have to," I started. "I want to," he interrupted softly. "I'll protect you." The words landed in the quiet between us like a vow. Simple. Certain. I turned my head slightly, seeing his face half lit by the moonlight, serious, determined, and so full of care that my chest ached. We didn't speak as he carried me the rest of the way to the car. The forest around us whispered with the sound of wind through branches, and every step seemed to echo deeper than the last. When we reached the car, he set me down carefully in the passenger seat and knelt to check my ankle, his fingers steady and sure. "It's not too bad," he murmured. "You just need to rest it." I nodded, unable to find words. For the first time in years, someone had looked at me, not as a wife, not as a symbol of faith or patience, but as a person who could be hurt and still be cared for. He closed the door gently and walked around to the driver's side. As the engine started, I watched his reflection in the window, the quiet strength, the calm focus, and thought about the promise he'd made so easily. "I will protect you." It wasn't just something he said. It was something I'd longed to hear. The hum of the engine filled the car, soft and steady. I watched the road blur past in streaks of gray and silver, the headlights tracing trembling lines across the trees. My ankle throbbed, but I barely noticed. My mind was somewhere else, caught between the night that felt alive and the home that suddenly felt distant. Then my phone rang again. The sound made both of us jump. The screen flashed Greg. For a moment, I thought about letting it go to voicemail, but the insistence of the ringing clawed at my nerves. I answered. "Where are you?" His voice was sharp, no longer half asleep. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" "I told you I went out," I said quietly. "I needed some air." "With who?" The words were almost a bark. "At midnight? What are you doing out there?" I could hear the shift in his breathing, the quick, angry rhythm I knew too well. I started, but he cut across me. "I've been waiting for you. The neighbors can see your car isn't here. You think this looks good? You think this helps me?" That last word struck like a whip.
Me.
Not us.
Not you.
Something inside me cracked. I didn't argue. I just ended the call. For a while, the only sound was the hum of the tires on asphalt. My hands trembled in my lap. "He's not supposed to talk to you like that," my son said at last, his voice low, steady. "You don't deserve that." I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. "He's just worried." "No," he said, firmer this time. "He's controlling you." His words hung in the air, heavy and frighteningly true. He looked at me, his eyes bright even in the dark. "You should leave, Mom. You should have left a long time ago. I'll help you, whatever it takes." I turned toward him, startled. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do," he said. "You deserve to be happy. To be respected. To be loved for who you are, not for what you represent." Something inside me broke open then. The tears came before I could stop them, silent at first, then all at once, like a dam finally giving way. I covered my face with my hands, but the sound of my sobbing filled the car anyway. He reached over, gently pulling my hands away. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay." He found a tissue from the console and dabbed the tears from my cheeks with the care of someone handling something fragile. I could feel his hand tremble just slightly, but he didn't pull away. His touch was careful, respectful, anchoring me in the present moment. "Don't cry," he whispered. "You're stronger than you think." I looked at him, and for a heartbeat I saw not my little boy, not even the man he had become, but something larger. A reminder that kindness still existed, that love could be pure and protective and unselfish. The tears slowed. The car settled into silence again, a fragile calm spreading between us. "Let's go home," I said finally. But even as we drove, I knew home no longer meant the same thing. "You don't have to come in," he said quietly. "I do," I whispered. "This is still my home." He nodded once, then got out and walked over to me. The click of the car door echoed across the empty street. When he opened it, a cool breeze swept in, carrying the scent of pine and rain. I put my hand in his, letting him help me out. That simple touch felt like crossing a line, from silence to awareness, from fear to truth. His eyes searched mine. For a moment the world held its breath. "No matter what happens," he said, "you deserve to live." Don't let anyone make you less than you are. Those words struck me deeply, calming me. I felt the warmth of his arms, the safety of his closeness, the tenderness that had been missing from my life for so long. He held me close, no demands, no sense of ownership, just a quiet reassurance. I froze for a moment, feeling the calm power of someone who had truly seen me. As I stepped back, my breath froze in the air. The porch light flickered on. Through the window, I saw my husband, frozen, still, framed by the glow of the living room. His face was blurred with confusion, maybe realization, maybe fear. I didn't look away. For the first time in years, I wasn't hiding. I turned to the door, the cold keys in my hand, and exhaled. The life I had created, the image I carried with me, all seemed as fragile as frost on glass. But beneath it, something stronger was beginning, a pulse, a choice. As I stepped forward, the night didn't close around me. It opened.